Retirement was supposed to feel calm, but for many Americans, it now feels financially tense. Housing costs keep climbing. Everyday expenses stretch fixed incomes thinner. And the idea that comfort only exists in expensive coastal or sunbelt cities has trapped a lot of people in places they can't afford anymore. Honestly, the real shock comes when people realize safety and affordability don't usually show up together in the cities everyone talks about. Many retirees quietly worry they'll outlive their savings, even after doing everything right. That pressure is exactly why a different set of places is starting to stand out. How these 15 places were chosen. These places weren't picked by vibes or hype. And honestly, that's where most retirement lists fall apart. The research focused on real safety data, combining low violent crime and property crime with what retirees actually pay to live day to day, including housing, healthcare access, utilities, and routine expenses that quietly drain savings over time. Cities that were too small to support hospitals, too expensive to live on a fixed income, or dependent on unstable job markets were filtered out early. You'll notice these locations balance predictability with livability, which matters more in retirement than flashy amenities. Once the numbers were stacked side by side, the ranking became clear, and that's why the countdown starts where it does. Number 15. Orono, Maine. Number 15 on our list is Orono, Maine, a small New England town that might not be on most people's retirement radar, but surprises those who dig into the data because it quietly checks off safety and affordability in ways many retirees underestimate. Nestled along the Stillwater and Penobscot rivers, Orono is home to a community that, while modest in size, shows crime levels that are comparable to or even lower than many similar towns across the country, with violent crime especially low and property crime rates near or below the national average, giving retirees real peace of mind about day-to-day safety in neighborhoods where people walk, shop, and live without constant worry. Local housing costs in Orono tend to be around the national median, and while cost of living numbers may be close to average, retirees often find that essentials like groceries, utilities, and healthcare services don't drain fixed incomes as fast as in pricey coastal retirement hotspots, making the dollars saved here stretch further when planning a comfortable lifestyle. Many retirees tell visitors they appreciate the slower pace, natural scenery, and community feel, with accessible parks, river trails, and a lively small downtown that doesn't feel isolating, yet also doesn't feel congested, which is exactly the balance older Americans hope for when they imagine their next chapter. What makes Orono especially interesting is that it represents the kind of place where comfort doesn't demand huge savings or big city infrastructure. And that leads perfectly into the next city on our countdown that builds on this mix of safety and smart affordability. Number 14. Worcester, Massachusetts. Number 14 is Worcester, Massachusetts. And this one usually catches people off guard because it challenges the idea that New England is automatically out of reach for retirees. Worcester combines strong safety trends with a cost structure that's far more manageable than nearby metro areas, especially when compared to Boston and its surrounding suburbs. Violent crime rates here, remain relatively low for a city of its size, and many residential neighborhoods feel stable, walkable, and well-established, which matters when comfort and peace of mind become top priorities. Housing prices tend to sit below the wider regional average, and retirees often notice that everyday expenses like healthcare access, utilities, and transportation stay more predictable than in flashier coastal cities. Honestly, the biggest surprise is how livable Worcester feels, with hospitals, cultural institutions, and a real sense of community without the pressure of big city congestion or luxury pricing. This is the kind of place where retirees can downshift financially without giving up quality of life. And it sets up the next location on the list that takes affordability even further while keeping safety firmly intact. Number 13. Yorktown, Indiana. Number 13 is Yorktown, Indiana, a town that quietly delivers exactly what many retirees say they want once the noise fades out of the conversation. Safety is a major reason Yorktown earns its spot, with crime rates that consistently stay low and neighborhoods that feel calm, predictable, and family-oriented, which naturally carries over into retirement comfort. Housing prices remain approachable compared to national averages, and that affordability extends beyond just buying a home, showing up in everyday costs like utilities, transportation, and local services that don't steadily creep upward year after year. You'll notice Yorktown feels organized and intentional, with well-kept public spaces, access to nearby medical facilities, and a pace of life that feels slower without feeling stagnant. Locals often say the appeal is how little stress daily living brings here, which matters more in retirement than flashy attractions. Yorktown proves that you don't need a big city or a famous zip code to retire well, and it leads directly into the next place that strengthens this balance with an even more compelling healthcare advantage. Number 12. Brecksville, Ohio. Number 12 is Brecksville, Ohio, a place that often surprises retirees once they look past the higher home values and notice how the rest of the math works. Brecksville consistently ranks as one of the safer communities in the region, with low violent crime and stable neighborhoods that feel quiet, orderly, and well-maintained, which immediately reduces day-to-day stress. While housing prices are higher than some towns earlier on the list, retirees often point out that long-term costs stay manageable because utilities, transportation, and healthcare access remain predictable and well-supported. You'll notice the difference in how the town is laid out, with easy access to parks, walking trails, and nearby medical centers that make daily life simpler without feeling crowded. Honestly, Brecksville appeals to retirees who want safety and structure without giving up access to larger city services, and it naturally leads into the next town that delivers similar peace of mind at an even lower overall cost. Number 11. Bedford, Indiana. Number 11 is Bedford, Indiana, and this town quietly hits a sweet spot that many retirees search for but rarely find. Bedford offers a calm, small-town environment with crime levels that stay low enough to make everyday life feel safe and predictable, which becomes increasingly important once routines slow down in retirement. Housing remains affordable compared to national averages, and that affordability carries into daily expenses like utilities, groceries, and local services that don't strain fixed incomes month after month. You'll notice Bedford feels practical rather than flashy, with access to regional healthcare, walkable areas, and a community rhythm that favors consistency over constant change. Honestly, retirees who move here often say the biggest benefit is peace of mind, knowing costs stay manageable without sacrificing safety or access to essentials. Bedford shows how comfort can exist without isolation, and it sets up the next place on the list that pushes affordability even further while keeping everyday living simple and secure. Number 10. Huntington, Indiana. Number 10 is Huntington, Indiana, a town that makes the retirement budget conversation feel very different once you see how far the numbers actually stretch. Safety plays a major role here, with crime levels that stay manageable enough for retirees to feel comfortable running errands, walking neighborhoods, and settling into daily routines without constant concern. Housing costs sit well below national averages, and what really stands out is how low everyday living expenses remain, from utilities to transportation to basic services that quietly add up elsewhere. You'll notice Huntington feels grounded and practical, supported by local healthcare access and a community size that offers convenience without congestion. Honestly, this is the kind of place where retirees realize that comfort doesn't come from luxury. It comes from predictability and breathing room in the budget, which leads perfectly into the next town that takes affordability even further while challenging common assumptions about safety. Number 9. Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Number 9 is Poplar Bluff, Missouri. And this is where perception and reality start to separate in a big way. On paper, Poplar Bluff stands out for how low the overall cost of living remains, especially housing, which allows retirees to live comfortably without constantly watching every dollar. Safety here often surprises people because while it's not a large city, crime rates stay manageable in many residential areas, particularly where retirees tend to settle, creating a sense of everyday security that feels grounded rather than over-policed. You'll notice daily expenses like groceries, utilities, and transportation stay consistently affordable, which matters more than one-time home prices once retirement income becomes fixed. Honestly, Poplar Bluff works best for retirees who value financial breathing room and a slower pace over prestige. And that balance helps explain why the next place on this list shifts the conversation toward communities that quietly outperform expectations in both safety and livability. Number 8. Parma Heights, Ohio. Number 8 is Parma Heights, Ohio, a community that quietly proves why the Midwest keeps dominating retirement conversations. Safety is one of the first things retirees notice here, with crime rates that stay relatively low, and neighborhoods that feel settled, walkable, and familiar in a comforting way. Housing prices remain accessible compared to national averages, which immediately eases pressure on fixed incomes. But the real advantage shows up in daily life where utilities, groceries, transportation, and healthcare costs stay consistently reasonable. You'll notice Parma Heights feels connected without feeling busy, offering easy access to medical centers, local shops, and surrounding suburbs without the congestion or expense of a major city. Honestly, this is the kind of place where retirees stop feeling rushed and start feeling stable. And that sense of balance naturally leads into the next location that delivers similar predictability with an even stronger focus on long-term affordability. Number 7. Pingree Grove, Illinois. Number 7 is Pingree Grove, Illinois, a fast-growing community that surprises retirees because it blends safety, affordability, and access in a way few places manage to pull off. Crime levels here remain low for a town experiencing steady growth, which gives retirees confidence that expansion hasn't come at the expense of security or neighborhood stability. Housing costs are higher than some earlier towns on this list, but many retirees notice the trade-off comes with newer infrastructure, well-planned neighborhoods, and predictable expenses that make budgeting easier over time. You'll notice Pingree Grove sits in a strategic spot, close enough to larger metro areas for specialized healthcare and shopping, yet far enough away to avoid big city pricing and congestion. Honestly, this is a place that appeals to retirees who want modern comfort without urban chaos. And it sets the stage for the next location where long-term livability and community connection start to matter even more. Number 6. Berea, Ohio. Number 6 is Berea, Ohio, a town that quietly delivers one of the most balanced retirement experiences on this list. Safety remains a strong point here, with crime levels that stay relatively low and neighborhoods that feel established, walkable, and community-oriented, which naturally appeals to retirees looking for peace without isolation. Housing prices are approachable compared to national averages, and everyday costs like utilities, groceries, and transportation remain stable enough to support long-term budgeting on a fixed income. You'll notice Berea has a lived-in charm, with local shops, green spaces, and access to nearby medical facilities that make daily life feel convenient rather than complicated. Honestly, retirees often say Berea feels easy to live in, which becomes more valuable than excitement over time. And that sense of comfort flows directly into the next place on the list that brings an unexpected regional twist. Number 5. Savannah, Georgia. Number 5 is Savannah, Georgia, and this is where the list takes a turn that surprises a lot of people. Savannah manages to combine southern charm, walkable neighborhoods, and a slower coastal lifestyle while still staying within reach for retirees who aren't working with unlimited budgets. Safety varies by neighborhood, but many residential areas popular with retirees remain stable and well-established, offering a sense of comfort that comes from community familiarity rather than heavy development. Housing costs sit lower than many other coastal cities, and retirees often notice that daily expenses like dining, utilities, and transportation stay more manageable than expected for a historic city with this much character. You'll notice Savannah feels lived in rather than tourist-driven once you step outside the busiest areas, which is exactly why many retirees quietly settle here long-term. Honestly, it's the balance between culture and cost that keeps Savannah on this list, and it opens the door to the next place where affordability and everyday comfort become even harder to ignore. Number 4. Mayfield Heights, Ohio. Number 4 is Mayfield Heights, Ohio, a place that quietly proves how powerful the math becomes when safety and affordability line up this cleanly. Crime rates here remain low enough to give retirees a genuine sense of ease, especially in residential areas where daily life feels calm, routine, and predictable. Housing costs are noticeably lower than national averages, which immediately reduces financial pressure. But what really stands out is how inexpensive everyday living remains once you settle in. Utilities, groceries, transportation, and access to healthcare stay consistently manageable, allowing fixed incomes to stretch without constant adjustment. You'll notice Mayfield Heights feels practical in the best way, with nearby medical centers, retail access, and infrastructure that supports aging comfortably without feeling overwhelming or crowded. Honestly, this is where many retirees realize comfort isn't about excitement, it's about stability. And that realization sets the stage for the next city that takes this balance even further. Number 3. Auburn, Indiana. Number 3 is Auburn, Indiana. And this is where affordability starts to feel almost unreal without sacrificing safety or comfort. Auburn consistently shows low crime levels for a town its size, which creates an environment where retirees feel comfortable settling into daily routines without constant concern. Housing costs remain well below national averages, and that advantage compounds when paired with everyday expenses that stay modest, from utilities to groceries to transportation, making it easier to live well on a fixed income. You'll notice Auburn feels steady and grounded, with a strong sense of local pride, accessible healthcare nearby, and a pace of life that feels intentional rather than slowed down by decline. Honestly, many retirees are surprised by how complete life feels here once the financial pressure disappears, which naturally raises the question of how the next city manages to edge even closer to the ideal balance. Number 2. Broadview Heights, Ohio. Number 2 is Broadview Heights, Ohio, a community that almost feels engineered for retirees who prioritize safety above everything else without losing financial control. Crime rates here remain extremely low, especially violent crime, which gives the town a reputation for quiet streets, well-kept neighborhoods, and a sense of order that becomes more valuable with age. Housing prices are higher than many places earlier on this list. But retirees often find the long-term value justifies the cost because daily expenses stay predictable and the quality of local services remains high. You'll notice Broadview Heights offers easy access to healthcare, green spaces, and nearby urban amenities while still preserving a suburban calm that feels insulated from chaos. Honestly, this is the kind of place where stress levels drop simply because life runs smoothly, and that's exactly why it sits just one step away from the top spot. Number 1. Columbus, Indiana. Number 1 is Columbus, Indiana, and this is where the retirement equation finally stops feeling like a trade-off. Columbus stands out because it combines a level of safety that retirees genuinely feel day to day with a cost structure that stays realistic long after the move is finished. Crime rates remain low enough that routine activities like walking neighborhoods, running errands, or spending time downtown feel calm and predictable rather than cautious, which becomes increasingly important as priorities shift toward peace of mind. Housing costs sit well below what most Americans expect for a city with this level of infrastructure, and that affordability extends beyond the purchase price into daily living, where utilities, transportation, and healthcare expenses stay manageable year after year instead of creeping upward unexpectedly. You'll notice Columbus doesn't feel like a compromise city because it offers strong medical access, reliable services, and thoughtfully designed public spaces that support aging comfortably without isolation. The city is known for being well-planned, easy to navigate, and quietly efficient, which reduces stress in ways retirees often don't realize they're missing until they experience it. Honestly, what surprises most people is how complete life feels here once financial pressure eases. Because comfort isn't just about saving money. It's about living somewhere that works smoothly without constant adjustment. Columbus represents the rare place where safety, affordability, and livability align so cleanly that retirees stop searching, settle in, and quietly realize this is exactly what they were hoping to find all along.